I'm Rachel Gable, and I'm here today with Kelly Clark. He's an attorney with McDonough Law. Kelly is originally from Rangeley, Colorado on the Western Slope. He's an outdoorsman. He's a barbecue master, grilling master, as well as an avid hunter. But he also has his pulse on topics that are very relevant to so many Coloradans across the state. And the first thing we want to visit with you about this morning is construction. But if you could please give us a little background into your law career and the work that you do.
Sure, I'd like to do it. Sure. I've been in construction since high school, actually. During high school, I worked with a construction crew building custom homes. And from there on, was in construction or in the oil field for many years. And then I went right before law school. I had an opportunity to go to work for a large company doing as an estimator, so a construction estimator. So I did construction estimating for about 5 years, and eventually had my own company for 3 or 4 years. I did my own you call it custom estimating for several. I had about, I guess, half a dozen or so subcontractors, specialty subcontractors that I worked for. And then I went to law school. And when I got out of law school, I started out doing litigation, and I got into doing quite a bit of construction litigation, some pretty large construction lawsuits that I was involved in. And then I started my own construction company. I was general counsel for a pretty good sized company. We were doing about $15 million a year, and so I managed all of the litigation and anything that went along with that. And then I was the general counsel for a large water and wastewater utility, where I did everything from procurement. I did procurement for public procurement for the construction work. Managed all of the contracts, created all the contracts. I did about, in a 5.5 year period, I did about $500 million in construction. And there didn't really have any litigation coming out of it, but there's some protests and that kind of thing. But it ran pretty well. I was also involved in the borrowing the money, the bond money to build those projects as well. And so anyway, that's my career. It's been, I would say, a little over 30 years I've been working in construction and construction law.
Very good. When I think construction litigation, I think about half completed projects and contractors that have disappeared. Is that one of the most common forms of construction litigation, or am I thinking too small?
No, that's it. I mean, sometimes it's just on a larger scale. Where there's defects, I would say that, in the residential and possibly even the commercial field in Colorado, you're looking at defect litigation and curing of defects, that kind of thing. And but sometimes it's as simple as just that wasn't what we agreed to. So it could be arranged anywhere from just a simple contract dispute all the way up to somebody getting injured or some property damage, that kind of thing that arises out of a defect or something that the owner did or whatever. So.
With so much new construction happening in the Boulder area following the Marshall Fire, I'm hearing lots of rumblings about not fireproof, but construction that meets certain requirements to be less susceptible to fire, mm-hmm. which also really raises the cost. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and what you see coming of those requirements and what you think that potential home builders might need to be thinking about?
Sure. There's a couple of things. One is you're going to start seeing a different landscaping efforts. So, and you may need, and there are mitigation techniques that can be built into the landscaping of the home, and that especially in areas that aren't even less suburban, where you're out in an area where there's maybe open space or even some trees or forested, that kind of area. Those are all as you've seen from the experience, on the news from what's happened in not just in Colorado but in California, in huge out there, that the same thing. So that's one thing, is landscaping issues, and also there are ways to build homes that are less susceptible to fire. There are a lot of people that go into this barn dominium concept, where it's basically all metal. I mean, you can even have metal, instead of using wooden studs on the interior, you're using metal studs on the interior, and you're using metal siding, metal roofing, metal soffits, trim, everything. So if you can combine those two, if you can combine the efforts of a landscape architect, or just do it yourself, and along with a metal building that is fireproof or fire resistant, then I think you're in pretty good shape.
If someone finds themselves in a litigation situation with some construction that they're involved in, and they need to seek your services, what do they need to have in hand when they come meet with you?
Well, first you need to bring me the contract if you have one. Hopefully you do. I'll need the assessment of what your issue is, as best you can put it together, and the damages that occurred, or what's been paid, what hasn't been paid, any subcontractors that were involved, anything that had any county requirements, building code, that kind of thing, and then I can take it from there.
Without giving away anything that's subject to attorney-client privilege, can you tell me a story about a client or a case that you worked that really combines some of the most interesting parts of the litigation that you're involved in?
There was a big case that I was involved in, and there was an earthquake, and and it became evident that there was either an issue with the engineering or in the construction of the hotel that was involved, and so that became the subject of it was about 5 years of litigation that I was involved. I was involved during the whole time that I was, for the first couple of years I was, and it carried on for a long time. And one of the things you have to think about in these is, you get a lot of people involved, or there's potential involvement or potential liability leveled at different parties. It can get fairly convoluted and also get very expensive. So you always have to think about that. And then I always try to counsel my clients at the beginning that, of all the different ways that you can, sort of skin the cat. There's a lot of ways of dealing with a lawsuit or a potential lawsuit that don't involve necessarily litigation. There are ways to mediate. You can arbitrate. You can possibly come to agreement without getting into expensive litigation. So I always use that as something that I always bring up, and something to approach as a way to approach a potential litigation or a potential lawsuit.
More than one way to skin a cat, indeed. I think so. Is there anything that we need to know about construction litigation that I didn't ask?
I would say that the number one is to be sure that you have a good contract in place because that is going to be your best bet at avoiding litigation. And if you can avoid litigation, that's the most important. That's the way to go. Once you get in, if you get into litigation, then you never know what's going to happen. I can tell you that I've been in court many times over the years, and clients come up to me and say, you know, what's going to happen today? You know, we're getting ready to go into a hearing, or we're getting ready to go into a trial, and you know, I can give them my best guess, but I cannot tell them what's going to happen. You can't. There is no way to tell if what's going to happen every day. And sure enough, pretty much every time I said that, and a lot of times when you go to court, nothing happens. It gets postponed, and that's why some of these actions last so long, so many years. So, like I said, if there's any way to get out of litigation and still come out on top, certainly that's the way you want to go.
Is there opportunity for folks to have you review their contract before they sign it?
Absolutely, and I would suggest that that's the best way to go. I'm a proponent of standardized contract, construction contracts, and because there's a lot of reasons to do it. And one is, the top one is that if they're standardized, and there are 3 or 4 different ones out there, some are geared towards contractors, and some are geared towards owners, and some are in the middle, some are geared towards architects. But what you want to do is, my choice is a particular one that is generally equitable between all the parties. And there's, the thing is that it's a little bit cheaper probably to put one of these standardized contracts together than what some people term as a Frankenstein, where there's somebody's contract, the piece of somebody over here and one over there. These standardized contracts have been tested in court. They've been looked over by attorneys. They've been looked over by engineers. They've been looked over by contractors, owners. So it's, and the next time you need one, you have one that you can go to, and it's easier for you to, and it's cheaper to do the next contract as well. So.
Very good. Sounds like strong contract, strong financing plan, strong litigation team.
Yep.
Very good.